You don't say.
Greetings, you have arrived at the KRWBY Talk podcast. Enjoy.
Whoa! We're the live? It's never a thing that
And
we've
we're
done before.
live.
This is us live?
Yeah.
Yes, it is, ladies and gentlemen, boys and
hooray.
girls. We're live.
Whoa! This has never happened before.
What? Really? Is this our first podcast?
I think it's our first podcast. We
What?
definitely haven't been doing this for years. No,
Wow.
sir. No, absolutely.
I feel like I've been implanted with false memories. Maybe plastic memories?
Oh my god.
That's a reference to the last podcast.
Oh man. I guess yeah. We'll wait for some people to file in here. But yeah, how are you fine gentlemen on this beautiful day? That I think it's 104 degrees here in Los Angeles. Jesus, it's not that beautiful.
It's real hot up here too. It's not that hot,
But it's hot. It is hot, fam.
Is real hot.
It's fucking spicy is what it is.
Spicy day. That's what it is.
Spicy day. Hey, as long as we don't get like a bunch of thunderstorms that set everything on fire again, I'll be cool.
Yeah, but like rain and clouds, that would be cool.
Is it a spicy day like Connie Day?
Oh my god. Speaking of Connie Day, she's not here.
Oof.
Katie isn't here with us today.
Katie, where are you? Why did you abandon us?
I don't know. I don't know why she just said she couldn't make it today. I didn't press further than that. I don't know. Maybe she maybe she died. Maybe she was like, yeah, I'm a ghost now, so I can't attend.
Oh, maybe she should have gotten grimmed instead. Might have been
You
more
reached from
pleasant.
beyond the grave to let me know that she wouldn't be here.
Right,
Damn, that's a strong ass
ghosts-
internet connection in hell.
I was gonna say, ghosts are really well known for their good Wi-Fi connections. Definitely a thing. Saw it on an episode of that ghost show or whatever.
Yo, Katie, can you send DoorDash?
Yeah, ghost hunters, sure.
Yeah,
Whatever. That's
yes.
probably a show, right?
They definitely text ghosts all the time. I get ghost texts
Yeah.
from all over. Yeah.
Did you
it's-
know
it's
ghosts
great.
can use Morse code?
What?
Yeah,
Ah.
that's how they communicate via the EMF meters that they have.
Oh,
That
yeah, on
makes
Achievement
sense.
Hunter?
Just the fact
Yeah,
that I
sure.
know they're called EMF meters, I think, is a problem.
All you need to do is
Maybe
watch
you've
like one
seen-
episode of Achievement Hunter and you'll know everything.
Yeah,
honestly,
they have all the cool
Achievement
stuff.
Hunter, best ghost show.
It's pretty
Honestly, no other ghost hunting show was thought to insult the ghost into making an
Like,
appearance. It's like,
Fucking
wow.
Jeremy being like, it's always been my dream to punch a ghost.
Yeah,
Like,
dude.
yes.
good. Or when they buried Gavin alive, that was great.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. But anyways, yeah. Hello, everybody. Unfortunately, like I said, Katie's not here today. It's just the Three Stooges. Sorry for the inconvenience. But we're going to be talking about some cool stuff, obviously. Like normal, we're going to be talking about what we're watching, some good anime. We're also going to be talking about that good ReZero Season 2, Episode 12 a little bit later. I'm not going to be talking about SAO today. Thank God.
No.
No more. This is going to be a really relaxed podcast. I'm so excited.
Are you?
Oh man.
I'm
What are we
relaxed I'm
gonna
gonna
do?
have my weekends
without...
back again. That's gonna be fun.
What do we do without your rants, though?
I don't know.
I feel
I'll
like
figure
part of my
something.
life is missing now.
We shall suffer until one day Brian will once again take on the mantle of God of War. I mean, Ragemonger. Or Ranter, as he prefers.
See, we're just gonna have to find another ridiculous show for you to rant about. I think that's the only
Probably.
answer.
You might be right about
You want to
that.
go back to 100?
Oh, oh my God, 100. Honestly, if there was any show that I could rant about, it would be 100.
Well, that went from 0 to.
Oh my God. You know what, Ian? I'd almost forgot that show existed,
I will.
and now I'm upset again.
I will never let you forget that show, ever.
Ah,
I
Oh,
will-
that show angered me. Like legit, like I put on fake rage for SAO. If I ranted about 100, all of my rage would be 100% legit.
So what you're saying is you're covering 100 next.
Oh my God. I might like It might be fun at some point to like at least do like a reaction or something of an episode of 100. Just be screaming the entire time like, how do you not know she's a woman? She's wearing makeup! Like,
maybe you should go talk to Michael Jones about taking over Rage Quit
God,
the new
it
format.
pissed me off so much. Like, she's not trans. She's nothing like that. She's literally trying to pass herself off as a guy, but she's doing her hair like a woman. She's not changing anything about her mannerisms. She just wears the male uniform, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, you're a guy, right?" No.
Brian.
Don't give me. Okay, I'm done. I'm done talking about 100.
Yeah, save that for like next week when you bring that show as the thing you watched.
My God.
Oh God.
No, Gamble, you are never late. You are right on time, my friend.
This whole podcast is just gonna be Brian screaming for the next.
That would be glorious, but unfortunately we have other things to do, like starting with Brian. What the fuck were you watching this week?
What was I watching this week? Oh man, we're gonna start out really, really strong today. This week, Ian, I watched Goblin Slayer.
You mean that one controversial show that everybody was complaining about?
I watched that one controversial show that everybody was complaining about. I sure did.
Well, for those of us who live under rocks, maybe several piles of rocks, what is controversial about the show Goblin Slayer? I mean, nobody likes goblins, right?
It's not so much that the show is controversial. It's more so, Forrest, that one particular scene in Goblin Slayer was controversial. And I will get to that in a moment.
Actually, it was more like two, but moving on.
There were two? Okay.
You didn't get that far.
So, I guess a little context as to why I checked out Goblin Slayer. I remember when Goblin Slayer first came out, before the controversy, when I saw that it was like coming up, I was like, so it's a show about a guy that slays goblins, and that's it. That's all he does. Where's the show in that? Like that sounds like it'd get really boring really fast. And so I wasn't really that interested in it. And then the first episode came out and the scene happened and the internet exploded. And I stayed away from it for a while. And then I watched Grimjack's Goblin Slayer Abridged. And if you haven't seen Grimjack's Goblin Slayer Abridged, do yourself a favor and watch Goblin Slayer Abridged. It is fucking hilarious. Grimjack, the role he was meant to play was Goblin Slayer. Like, oh my God, it's really great and really funny, and he's perfect in that role. But yeah, after I guess becoming a fan of Goblin Slayer Abridged, I was like, okay, I really want to check this show out. I really want to watch the original. And Goblin Slayer did some stuff that kind of surprised me, and that I really enjoyed. I don't think by any means that the show was like incredible or amazing or anything like that. But it did some stuff that I really liked. First and foremost is that I like that it sort of had this element of subversion of the standard fantasy genre. Because I feel like most standard fantasy stories that we see and we watch and we read, they're usually always about this one hero or this group of heroes that are off on a quest to go on all of these amazing adventures and these awesome missions, and they go through all of this stuff, and there's high stakes, and maybe even some of them die along the way, and it's all in an effort to defeat the demon lord or whatever, right? There's some big end goal at the end of the story. But in every single one of those worlds, there are people Sorry. You can watch Goblin Slayer is available to watch on Crunchyroll. So go check it out on Crunchyroll. Also, watch Goblin Slayer abridged on Grimjack's YouTube channel. Highly recommend that. But yeah, I really liked what it did, because in every single of those fantasy worlds I've seen, right, it always focuses on that set of special heroes. And in those worlds, there are a bunch of other people that those heroes interact with that aren't special like they are. And Goblin Slayer, I think, really took that idea and said, because there are those heroes in the universe of Goblin Slayer, those special heroes that are off defeating the Demon Lord and doing all the big adventures. And Goblin Slayer was like, cool, so that's a thing, but what if our story was not about those guys, but about the people doing the really horrible everyday jobs that nobody wants to do, but needs to be done? And that's what Goblin Slayer is. And I guess I really liked that sort of subversion of the standard fantasy to kind of come at that fantasy genre from a slightly different angle. I definitely don't think Goblin Slayer is like the first fantasy show or fantasy story to do that by any means, but it's still not something that I feel like you see done a whole lot. And I really appreciated that.
It does have a very grounded focus.
Yes, it does.
It's an every person story, like about the lay people who do the odd jobs that help keep this fantasy world of adventurers going.
Yeah, absolutely. Except take out the lay people doing all the odd jobs and make that the lay people specifically slaying goblins.
Yeah, it's like a specialist over a generalist. Like adventurers like travel around doing different jobs because they want to do like different things or get paid more. Goblin Slayer's like, he is a specialist. You want to kill goblins? He knows how to kill fucking goblins.
Yeah.
Hey, I got this goblin infestation over here. You gotta get your pest control over it.
Literally, that is his job.
Yeah.
Does he drive around in a white van that says Goblin Removal Services?
Maybe in the abridged, but no.
That would be incredible. But no. So, Goblin Slayer is that is what it's about. It's about Goblin Slayer. Initially, he's working on his own, and over time, he builds up a party that helps him go out and defeat goblins. And the goblins in this world are horrible. I mean, they commit these awful atrocities that you wouldn't expect from such a low-level monster, right? And I will say, overall, I enjoyed the show. I liked the subversion of it. I liked a lot of the characters. I thought they were fun and interesting. I saw some people complaining that the show got a little repetitive, and I could see that because, yeah, the show really is just Goblin Slayer killing goblins. But I don't know. For a repetitive show, I think that's part of why I say, like, I feel like, it was fun. It was okay. I don't think it was amazing. But, for a show that's really just about a guy slaying goblins, I feel like it was pretty good.
It does a really good job, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. I also watched the movie too, and the movie was good as well.
I have yet to watch the movie. I'd actually forgotten about that.
Yeah. First warning: first 25 minutes are just a recap of the show.
Oh.
But then the next hour is all the new stuff, so you can just kind of skip the first 25 minutes of the movie.
All right, good to know.
But yeah. So, anyways, with all that out of the way, explaining what Goblin Slayer is, let's talk about the scene.
Here we go, boys. If you don't like controversy, now will be your time to plug your ears for 5 minutes.
So, for anybody who is not aware of the controversy surrounding Goblin Slayer, let me enlighten you. The controversy surrounding Goblin Slayer stemmed from a scene that took place in the first episode that really established the show as a very insanely dark and gritty dark fantasy series. For, I guess, minor spoilers for the first episode, but it's kind of what sets up the rest of the thing, so, I don't really consider it to be any major spoilers. The main girl that you see on the front there with the blonde hair, that's Priestess. None of the characters have actual names. and she's a brand new adventurer, and she hooks up with a bunch of other brand new adventurers, and they all go out on a goblin slaying quest in a cave, and they all underestimate the goblins horribly, and her entire team ends up getting massacred. And it is a really horrible scene. Like it's uncomfortable. It's just pure carnage. People are screaming, limbs are getting chopped off. It's really really dark. And in this scene, one of the female adventurers that they are with, the goblins rip off her clothes and rape her. And a lot of people took issue with that. And really,
gee, I can't imagine why.
There was a lot of talk of this was horrible. There should have been a viewer discretion warning on it, which I agree. It's a really horrendous scene. Not in its execution, mind you, just like what's happening in it. It's horrible, and it's very very dark, and yeah. So I definitely agree that it should have had a viewer discretion warning, and now actually every single episode of Goblin Slayer does have a viewer discretion warning in the subtitles.
And not without good reason.
Yeah, for good reason. It's a very dark show. Yes. David, you are correct. One of the team members does survive aside from Priestess. I was just simplifying it because, as you said, severe mental health issues. She does not continue adventuring. But anyways, yeah, so a lot of people took issue with this rape scene. A lot of people said there was no reason for that to be there. And I've done a lot of thinking about it. And now I will say that this scene was actually a big part of the reason why I avoided watching Goblin Slayer for so long. I don't like super dark stuff. In particular, I really have a hard time with torture scenes. I really don't like those. And I very much consider rape to be a form of torture. And the way that people were talking about this scene, it really, really turned me off to it and was like, God, this scene sounds like it's really awful. I don't know if I want to watch that. And it really wasn't until I watched Goblin Slayer Abridged that I got curious enough that I was like, all right, I guess I really want to watch this show, and whatever happens in this scene happens, and I'll just deal with it. And when the scene happened, I was kind of surprised, because after all of the hype and all of the controversy surrounding this scene, it really was not nearly as bad as I was expecting. And see, Gamble, that's where I kind of disagree. I've heard that argument before about the fetish stuff. And yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about next. The scene went by really fast. It was really only a handful of shots that established what was happening to her. I felt like they really only showed enough to make it clear what was happening and get their point across, and then they were kind of done with it. And I've heard the argument that, it was fetishized, and maybe I need to go back and rewatch the scene to reevaluate it, but all I can say is that when I was watching it, I really didn't get that impression. It really didn't feel like it was fetishized. It really felt, everything about that scene, including the rape bit, felt like it was there to be horrifying, and it was executed as horrifying. And I personally believe that if you are going to include a rape scene in media, that's the way it should be. It should be horrifying. You should not be glorifying rape.
The biggest thing is the argument could be made that just by showing that at all, right, that you are in some sense glorifying it, right?
Well, see,
usually the argument.
I see. Like, yeah, I hear that argument. So I I personally think that media and storytelling is should in its best forms is a commentary and a reflection oftentimes of reality. And so to say that we can't include this because it would be scarring, or that just simply including this is fetishizing it, or sorry, not fetishizing it, is glorifying it. I don't really think that that's a sound argument, especially if what you're doing is integral to your story. So I wouldn't go so far as to say I don't believe that we should just ban all rape scenes from being in media. I don't think that that's a good idea. But it is a very sensitive topic, and if you are going to put that in your media, you have to treat it with the utmost care.
And it has to be presented in a way that doesn't in any way glorify that.
Right, which is why I say that in the case of a rape scene, like, it should be horrifying. Right? There should be no semblance of this is something good. Right?
Or even something to linger on. I mean, I don't think that there are probably few enough people on the planet that will, describe rape as anything good. But even just focusing on it, having it be a central component of your storyline when the rest of your story doesn't really need any amount of undue focus on it, I think is like, okay,
well, I agree with that.
If it's there, it needs to be relevant to the plot. You can't just throw something in like that just because you want to add extra horrifyingness on that. Like, chop a few more limbs.
Oh, I agree. Like, you shouldn't just throw rape in to be like, extra shock value. Yeah, no. I agree with that. But the thing is, and this is where I kind of understand the controversy, right? Is if you are going into Goblin Slayer and you're basing everything on the first episode, I think it's really easy to look at that scene and go, why the hell is this here? There's no reason for it to be here. But in the context of the whole show, I disagree. The whole show revolves around killing goblins and why killing goblins is necessary. The fact that they are these awful, awful creatures that commit these horrible atrocities. And I'm very much a believer in the show don't tell rule. I would much rather be shown the atrocities that the goblins are committing rather than being told, oh yeah, and they rape people, so they're bad. I think it was considering the effect, of goblins on Goblin Slayer as a character in his past and what he's witnessed, what he's been through. It was a way to help us as the audience look at the goblins in at least somewhat the same way as Goblin Slayer. And sympathize with his viewpoint on his pure and utter hatred for the goblins, and help us, along with the other characters that he comes into contact with, understand why they have to be dealt with. So, and without that scene, without actively seeing the atrocities that the goblins were committing, I don't think that I would have had as much hatred for the goblins as the show really required me to have. So it is a case where I feel like I personally, just based on my viewing experience, feel like this was a rape scene that in the context of the whole show made sense as to why it was there, and was probably actually even a good choice, dare I say. But I can definitely see
content warning.
But yes, absolutely content warning. And in the case of the controversy itself, once again, coming in, not having the context for the whole show and what it's going to be about, especially going in thinking, oh, this is just going to be a standard fantasy show. Maybe it's going to be dark fantasy, but having no idea that it's going to get this dark, right? I can very easily see how based on the first episode alone, with no context as to what the whole of that scene and the whole themes of this show are, it's really easy to look at it and go, whoa, that was way too far. And I think that's why so many people had the reactions that they did. But yeah,
it's a lot to put in the first episode.
It's a lot to put in the first episode. And without knowing, without having any real understanding of why that's important to be there, which you, like I said, you don't really get an understanding of until a few episodes later, right? As you start to realize more of what the show really is. Yeah, it's really easy to go, whoa, this is bad. So I think the scene was perhaps poor. I think overall, my at least initial impression of the scene upon watching it was it had a purpose for being there, and it was well executed. Like I said, they didn't dwell on it. They really only showed, it's only a handful of shots. They only showed enough to get their point across, and then they moved on. So I feel like overall the scene had a reason for being there. It was well executed, but perhaps not well timed.
That I believe we can all agree on, because without a viewer content warning,
there absolutely should have been a viewer discretion.
I'm fairly sure whoever was handling that at Crunchyroll, like the first day that episode came out, they were like, "What the fuck is going on?" As they show like a tablet scrolling through like digital media, losing their fucking minds over this show, and with good reason.
Yeah.
Why was there no
wasn't a
warning
content
on
warning
this?
From the beginning? There absolutely should have been.
Yes, there absolutely should have been a content warning.
Somebody screwed up.
Yeah.
And honestly, if there had been a content warning, I don't think the controversy would have been what it was.
It probably would not have been there at all.
Yeah. I'd like to, like, I know I said I wasn't going to talk about SAO today, but seriously, to pull a comparison, right? In comparison to the way Goblin Slayer handled this rape scene versus the way SAO has handled its many, many scenes of sexual assault. The core difference between those two, where like I feel like the sexual assault scenes in SAO are horrible. They're like the worst possible execution. They have no reason to be there. And as opposed to Goblin Slayer, where, as I said, thematically, I feel like the scene makes sense. There's a rhyme and a reason for that. Whereas in SAO, the core reason why there's so much sexual assault in SAO is, one, it seemed like, at least for a time, Reki Kawahara had some kind of fetish about it. And two, Reki Kawahara literally doesn't know how to write a hateable villain that isn't a sexual predator. That's really the core difference, is that Reki Kawahara, I think, in SAO, fetishizes a lot of that stuff, as well as uses it as a crutch to try to make his super thin villains hateable. Whereas Goblin Slayer, like I said, really felt like it had a rhyme and a reason.
Unfortunately, the poor execution of said scenes makes it even worse.
Yes, yeah.
It's like, you can only write a sexual predator villain, but you can't write the sexual violence in a shock value-esque way. What the fuck are you doing?
We were talking about scenes that might glorify that.
Well,
everything I've heard, SAO is
dubious.
Yeah.
I have one last thing to say about Goblin Slayer before we move on.
Okay.
Well, actually, you guys don't play D&D that much, but if you listen to the lyrics of the opening and even the full version, which I happen to own, there are a bunch of D&D references in there, like rolling the dice, specifically a D20.
That's another thing. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. There's like if you like D&D, there's like a really strong like D&D undertone to Goblin Slayer.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yes.
I completely forgot about that. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about it, like why am I thinking of Dungeons and Dragons and Goblin Slayer? Oh, it's the opening song. There are a bunch of D&D references in the opening.
It's not even just that. Like, they talk about how like the gods like built the world and decided like what happened in it by rolling dice.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah. Oh
Mm.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a
So
Yeah.
huge
so
reference.
these are almost like characters in a D&D campaign that someone made that are just like
Honestly,
the
like
extra characters that you might like walk past on the street, but like
Honestly, you're not wrong. It
honestly, like I've like there were several times watching the show where I was like, is this just somebody's D&D campaign that they
I
just turned into a story?
it would not
Like,
surprise me. A lot of stories have been made that way, my friend.
yeah.
There are a lot of books that have been made simply by people playing D&D.
Yeah,
very good.
that's yeah, you're right, Arksy. That is, yeah. None of the characters have names. Like they're all just known as like their classes and stuff. Like blonde girl is priestess. Um, fucking we the archer is often known as just elf. Um, yeah, like there's lots of yeah. Nobody has names. It's weird.
They're just NPCs that
Yeah.
the person didn't have time to name. Like, why bother? You're gonna see this character once.
Yeah. So, anyways, after all that talk of that horrible scene, I don't want to scare too many people away from it because I actually really enjoyed this show and I think it's a good show. Um, it just has this one scene that's really tough. But if you get past that scene, uh, it never gets that bad again. So, but you said there was a second scene. What
Yeah,
scene were you talking about, Ian?
It wasn't like explicit, like immediately gets raped, but they come into another room when they're assaulting a certain area, and there's this woman who is just. It is clear that she has been used as a sexual outlet.
Yeah, that happens early on as well. They find a woman who was one of the goblins' playthings.
Yeah, there. I think there's
Yeah.
maybe there could be one more. I could be wrong, but it's very clear that at least the second one's like, oh yeah, she's simply been a sex doll for them
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
God knows how long. I think that's why he does the thing that he does in that scene, which I will not spoil.
Yeah, it's pretty. So yeah, I mean, and that's another one of the reasons why I say like I feel like the scene was justified because it is a theme, right? It's not something that they forget. Is you're never really allowed to forget that the goblins are doing these horrible things. But yeah, it never gets nearly as gratuitous as the first scene in the first episode. So anyways, I just wanted to say that because I don't want to scare too many people off of the show. Because I know that I was scared off from the show by that scene, and I just built it up in my head, and then when I watched it, I was like, oh, that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be.
It does get a whole lot more palatable the more you watch.
Yeah. So, but absolutely still content warning. If you have a problem with like heavy violence or rape or any of that stuff, if you feel like any of that stuff is going to be seriously triggering for you, then absolutely probably avoid this show.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, Goblin Slayer. It was a good time. It's on Crunchyroll.
Wow.
And if you would like a version of the show that's maybe got not that kind of darkness in it, go watch Goblin Slayer Abridged because they cut that stuff out.
The lighter version of the show.
The lighter version, and it's fucking hilarious. So yeah, go do that.
So you got some options.
Yeah, anyways, Ian, what have you been watching?
So, transitioning from one somewhat dark fantasy to another, I watched, well, I haven't watched, but I'm going to talk about Blue Exorcist this week.
Oh, hell
yeah. So for those of you who are looking to watch this show, you can find it on Netflix. It's got 2 seasons now, I believe.
I think it's also on Crunchyroll.
I think it's also on Crunchyroll because that's where it aired. It was only like a couple years ago it's got its second season now. Hopefully season 3 will come along at some point.
Yeah, I heard and also apparently isn't the ending of season 1 like non-canon or something?
I'll get there.
Okay, yeah.
I'll get to that. Our main character is the son of Satan.
Yep.
Literally, he is the son of Satan. He has a twin brother and he's living out in a church, going to school. He's having a normal-ish life, and a couple things happen in his life that change everything, and he suddenly goes from wanting to just be like normal to an exorcist, which is kind of ironic for the son of Satan to want to be an exorcist, killing demons. And the irony is not lost on the show. And what he does is he starts attending an academy. I can't remember the academy's name for the life of me. But he's attending an academy where all sorts of academia are taught. But he's going specifically for the exorcist classes. So he goes in there and he meets a few other people, and the professor walks into the room, and it's his brother.
Yeah.
So, what follows are, a few lovable hijinks as we learn to, take a look at our characters and figure out what's going on with them, and what they can do. Turns out there's a lot of ways to kill demons. It seems like every culture's kind of figured that out of necessity. Like, sometimes you can cut them, sometimes you can just, like, eat them, or shoot them with bullets, or maybe you could just recite the right mantra from the Bible, and poof, they're dead.
It's like they're pretty fragile in that case.
They're kind of fragile until you have one in your face trying to, swallow you whole while you're trying to recite a verse from Leviticus. Little stressful after that. There's a lot of magic. There's a lot of interesting things going on, but our characters always kind of looked at with a few, like, discerning eyes, like, what the fuck is the son of Satan doing at an exorcist school? Like, can we trust this fucking dude? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he has to deal with a lot of prejudice.
There's a lot of prejudice on that. The ending for season 1 is totally not in canon.
Yeah.
Like,
because wasn't it one of those situations where, like, they didn't think they were gonna get a second season, and so they were like, okay, we just got to write our own original ending.
Yes,
and then they're like,
I think
oh
so.
wait, shit, we got a season 2. Fuck.
It's like, oh fuck, they didn't even know they got a season 2 for a while. They were like, we don't know if we're ever getting a season 2, so, like, fuck it, original ending. They're gonna kill Satan in one season. And it's not canon. Like, the first thing they do at the start of the second season is rewind, I think, from that moment up to a certain spot and go where canon starts up again.
No, David, we do remember that it's his twin brother, yeah.
No, I did mention it's his twin brother there.
Yeah.
Wait, you said the teacher?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is his twin brother? Ah,
yeah.
Yeah, his teacher is his twin brother.
Which means he's also the son of Satan.
Also the son of Satan, but he doesn't seem to have any satanic abilities, so people are like, he seems okay.
He's the normal one.
He's the normal one.
As normal as you can be. He kills demons with guns.
I mean, you're not wrong.
You know.
And what follows is the second season. The second season gets a lot of political intrigue.
Yeah.
Followed up by, more cool fight scenes. And if you're looking for just something out of the box that's just flat out good, like, no questions asked, this is fun, go watch Blue Exorcist.
Yeah. I agree. It's on Crunchyroll, it's on Netflix. I will say, I think, there's a reason why Blue Exorcist is like a gateway anime.
It is.
Yeah, it's a really good introduction to the anime world that gets like that feels anime, but is kind of very much like that traditional battle shonen like type thing. I will say that as far as like my gripes with the show are concerned, I do feel like there are a number of characters, like honestly most of the characters in the show that aren't Rin and his brother, like they kind of get underdeveloped, I feel, and underutilized in a lot of places.
Yeah, there's a lot to be done with those characters.
Yeah.
Speaking as somebody who actually was so bored waiting for season 2, he read up to the point where season 2 ends in the manga. There were a few things they missed, but I think it's mostly in the execution of the show rather than a fault of the original material.
Gotcha. Yeah, there was definitely like Yeah, so that was something that I was a little irked by, but the story itself and the core cast has a lot of charisma. And yeah, it's a world that draws you in, and you're just like, yeah, tell me more. What happens next? It's
Yeah,
just like like you're just constantly being like, next episode, next episode. You
yeah,
know,
it's really
it's
one
a
of those
real
big
it's a
gates.
show that's really easy to binge.
It's really
Mm.
easy to binge, and it also looks close enough to what American cartoons look like, or at least feel like, that
Hmm.
you could actually think, oh, this doesn't seem too far off from like all those Pokemon and Digimon cartoons I used to watch when I was a kid. Sure, this is an American-made thing, right? Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
And then you realize it's not, eventually.
Except that Pokemon and Digimon aren't American made.
No,
Yeah.
no, but so many people don't know that.
Yeah.
Aired on American TV. They got now.
I
So
think
you're saying
everything
it's
aired on
bingeable and it's
American
on
TV is
Netflix.
made in America. They could not
Yes.
understand the concept otherwise.
Very bingeable, and it's on Netflix. But yeah, definitely important to go in knowing that the ending of season 1 is not canon.
Yeah, like
doesn't,
enjoy the
like-
light show, not much else.
Doesn't like season 2 pick up like actually like midway through season 1 at some
Literally.
point? Yeah.
There's in like the last 3, maybe 5-ish episodes of season 1 is where season 2 starts, because that's where they
Yeah.
had to invent their own ending.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's definitely good to have that information going in. Otherwise, you will be very confused.
The show does a very good job of going from, oh hey, we're going to rewind from the fake season 1 ending and rewinding back to, I think, to this point, and then starting from there where everything gets different.
Yeah.
I think that's what they do. I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
And if you're wondering, is it worth watching the original season 1 ending? It's fun.
I mean, it's
So-
fun, but it's just not canon. Just remember
It's not
that.
canon, but it's fun. Like
It's not bad.
I went in knowing that it wasn't gonna be canon, but I didn't skip it because I was like, I want to see what they did, and what they did was fun. So, yeah, I don't know. It's up to you. You don't have to watch it, but I did, and I enjoyed it. And
Honestly,
then I
you
was
should
like, all
probably
right,
just
cool.
watch
Now
to
let's
the
see what
end.
actually happened.
You should probably watch the end just so you know at what point they cut off.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, Blue Exorcist is a good time. Go check it out.
Okay, so we've done 2 normal pieces. Let's try something different.
Yeah.
it up a little bit, shall
So
we?
let me explain to the audience what's about to happen here.
Do my homework.
So Forrest doesn't watch as much media as us on a regular basis, and there have been many
I'm
an occasion.
watching a lot of things, but I'm still watching them. I haven't finished them, and I've already talked about them on the podcast. So
Basically,
So-
Forrest is not a binge-watching American like most of us.
I don't
So-
binge watch much now.
So because of that, I have had to hound him on several occasions to be like, "Hey, just pick something to talk about." But he didn't do his homework this week, and so we decided to do something different. I told Ian to go find an image of some crazy anime that ideally he and I both know that Forrest has never watched, and show it to Forrest, and then have him guess what the show is about. So that's what
Based
we're
on the
gonna do
cover.
right now, based on the
Li-
image. So let's go
Literally,
ahead and.
we came up with this idea like 5 minutes before we got on the podcast.
It's
But-
true.
It's
So we'll
true,
see how this goes.
but this show will be amazing. I know it. What could go wrong?
All right. So
Especially-
what did you pick? What did you pick for him, Ian? Let's see it.
Like, nothing could go wrong, especially because I picked something topical. The God of High School.
All right. You
Can
picked God
can
of
you
High
put it
School.
in the?
You put it in the thing.
Oh yes, I
Yeah,
forgot,
yeah.
Forrest. You need
It's okay.
a bit of reference
I
material.
do think we've talked about God of High
Let's-
School on the
We
podcast
have.
before.
we have,
but
I
don't know if
I
don't know
think he
if,
remembers.
you remember
It was
any
like
of
the
that.
first episode that we did when we started the newest season, so I doubt it.
I do kind of remember the gist of it, actually, but...
Oh,
Okay, well, we're like 12 episodes in now, so...
So who the flip knows what happened?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I will say the show has changed quite a bit. So, Forrest,
Mhm.
what is God of High School about?
Where is it?
It is coming in for you right now, my friend. There you go. Enjoy.
Of high school. Well, let's see, we got a bunch of cool anime guys and an anime girl. You can tell because she has a skirt. And then there's a dude that's like looking directly away. So he's obviously like the coolest because he can't even look at the camera. Some people have swords.
Cool guys don't look at the camera.
Yeah,
right.
you look away from the camera. Like, see, like there's the guy with the hoodie who's like looking horizontally, like he's kind of looking at the camera, but not really. Mm-hmm. But then the other guy, no, doesn't need to look.
It's the scale of coolness. So what you're saying is the main character there, he's the least cool.
Well, no, probably not. Guy at the top is probably like. This is usually how it works. Like, usually the guy at the top is the villain, right? And then, like, the guy at the bottom is, like, who's the closest is, like, the main protagonist, right? So...
Right, but we've just established that if you're looking away from the camera, that makes you cool. And he's looking directly at the camera, which is the least cool thing you can do. So doesn't that mean he's, like, the least cool?
You know, you would think that logic would follow, but it doesn't. Because he's also the biggest.
Because that's true. We haven't talked about size. You're right.
Yeah. Damn,
yeah.
you're right.
But are you sure size is about being as cool, or is it just about being as important?
Yeah, you're right. Size is important. So he's the most important guy.
Okay.
But maybe looking away from see, because again, if the guy looking away from the camera is the bad guy, maybe the bad guy's whole thing and why he's bad is because he's so cool, and so the good guys have to defeat him by being cooler than the coolest guy.
Oh, so it's an underdog story.
Damn.
Yeah.
Insight.
It's an underdog story about being cooler than the other guy, and because high schoolers, right? That's
because high schoolers.
Cool,
because high
cool.
School. They have to be the coolest in high school.
Yes, that's definitely what the show is about.
Got
Absolutely.
it.
Wow.
I love this premise. Great job.
I love this. It's excellent, dude.
I'm sure none of this is accurate, but...
Except for the part where they do enough damage to fucking obliterate a high school.
I mean, you can throw some scenes in there from, like, freaking Mob Psycho or whatever. That's fine.
I mean, you're not wrong. Also, there's, like...
You're actually really close there.
You're not wrong.
They like throw the high school in pieces up into the sky and then have a big punch up and then
close enough.
Someone's just like,
close enough.
Wasn't there like a high school there?
You know what? He's got it pretty close. He's a lot closer.
I like it. I like it.
Oh man.
I don't know what the other people are doing. I don't know.
Are you ready for the revelation, Forrest?
Yeah.
It is a high schooler fighting tournament with anime magic and physics enabled.
Mm-hmm. They just turn gravity to 0 and then punch impact to 1,000.
Forrest, in this show, they shoot guns into magic circles and the bullets turn into lasers.
Well, that works, right?
I mean, of course, dude.
Why wouldn't it? Of course that would be.
Have you ever shot a gun into a magic circle?
You know what? That's fair. I have not. You've got me there. You've got me there. I've never shot a gun into a magic circle.
Maybe they do turn into lasers.
I was ignorant. Thank you for putting me in my place.
You know, when you've got enough epic anime powers that you're kicking summon like dragons, you're pretty much set.
Yeah. Oh, there are dragons in it? Wait, did you just
Oh,
say...
yeah, dude. The main character, he's really good at martial arts, and especially when he gets, like, super good at copying other people's martial arts and incorporating them, he's just like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna do this dragon kick somebody did, and now it's gonna literally summon, like, a fucking dragon imagery that's gonna fucking hit people.
That's definitely how martial arts work.
Like,
okay. Exactly.
If you practice your martial arts
but, like,
hard enough,
there's not
it just makes dragons.
Okay, but, like, there's not just dragons, okay? There's a dude with sharks for arms.
He can fucking eat people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. Is that like shark form? Like, you have like the different forms of he just does the shark
Like
kung
the
fu.
upper half of a shark's jaw will just come out of the floor and eat people, or shoot its teeth out like spikes.
Oh, I didn't know sharks could do that. That's a new one.
Dude, man, it's new. Scientific breakthrough, man. Mind blown.
Several 100 million years of evolution, and sharks haven't figured that out yet. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, by the way.
By the way, since our teeth come off all the time, why don't we just shoot them out instead?
Oh god.
Makes sense. They make so many teeth. Huh?
Oh, this show is a mess.
Oh, so it
Well,
actually,
Was I right about? But was I right about the guy looking away being the villain because he's so cool?
Yes.
Though?
Yeah,
Like,
that's-
how
well,
close.
he
That's
is.
the-
He is
isn't
like
that
the
isn't that Shark Arm Boy?
yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
That's
Shark
him.
Arm Boy.
Yeah, he's cool until he's not, and then, well, actually, he's never cool. He's just a total douche all the time. It's just that you think he's the main villain, and then people make you think he's not the main villain, and then he's just like a badass guy who becomes the big villain again for the season.
Okay, so is the main so the main villain at the top and the protagonist at the bottom? That's still accurate, right? And then,
Oh, yeah.
Like, side characters are the ones directly next to the protagonist, and the ones like the two other guys are kind of like maybe sort of like they're like sort of helping the protagonist, but not as much as the other two.
So I have to address something. So David, you said it's his original. It's not quite, because he takes it from Dewi, because that's one of his like 4 forms. Then he takes it a kick, and then he calls it his original move, my friend.
This anime makes so much sense.
So let me
Clearly,
let me clarify. This 12 episode season, I think, encapsulated over 100 webcomic episodes.
I kind of want to actually talk more about God of High School, but I don't want to do that on this podcast.
Okay, yeah, you're right. We should save that for another time.
Yeah. Because I definitely want to have a conversation about God of High School with Katie here.
Oh God, I have to go reread some of this stuff so I can understand it better.
But yeah. So
what's hard to understand about sharks for arms? I mean,
Not much.
But yeah. So good job, Forrest. You did very, very well.
excellent.
Next time I'll pick something a bit more obscure.
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
topical.
You gotta do something like the Manic Pixie Dream Girl stuff. That I wouldn't understand.
Oh God, let's. Oh God, this could go very poorly.
Oh man.
All right. So
Well,
are we moving on?
I think we're moving on. I think, guys, it is time to talk about ReZero.
Damn.
Oh.
Last week's episode of ReZero. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Buckle
And
up,
this-
buttercups.
And this week's episode, holy shit.
Yeah. Holy crap.
Yeah. So, as always, Tower of God. Yeah, we could talk about Tower of God at some point.
I mean, we probably should, because I've read that too.
Yeah.
So that means I'd have to.
I'm
finish
in
it.
an
I got,
abridged.
like, most
I'm
of
in a
it,
Tower of God abridged series actually. So.
Yeah, you might want to read some of the original material, my friend.
I mean, I don't know how much of the original material is relevant to the version of the character that I'm playing.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I voice Kuhn.
Yeah.
In Fanbase's Tower of God abridged, and he loves his handbags, man.
Oh yeah, dude, he's got excellent taste.
He's got
Brown
excellent
leather
taste.
with a metal clasp. What could do better?
He's real suave and smooth, you know. Don't underestimate the power of genuine leather. That's my character.
Okay.
None of.
I think we're getting off
nonsense.
topic here.
Yeah. Anyways, ReZero.
3-0.
But
I do
yeah.
have something
with the
special to
witches.
talk about at the end for that, but sure, let's go.
But yeah. So as always, spoilers for ReZero. Specifically ReZero Season 2, Episode 12, The Witch's Tea Party. So, Subaru respawns and realizes that Amelia turned out the way she did last time, which was horrifying, because he wasn't there for her.
Which is kind of what we concluded last time.
Yep.
Like, that was just like, yeah, he shouldn't have left her.
Yep, he shouldn't have done that. It was a mistake.
Roswell's a dick.
Yep. So he also vows that he's never going to be like Roswell. Which, to that, I say, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
Just making a reference to that theory from last time that maybe Roswell was like him in the past. Like, he had some sort of respawning mechanic thing connected to the witches. Maybe the witch agreed instead of the witch of envy or something. But then maybe he's like, not probably a future version of Subaru, but you know, like what Subaru is now, he used to be, and then he lost that power somehow.
Mm-hmm.
That was my theory from last time.
Yeah.
It does not quite seem that likely now, by the way he talks about it, but we shall see.
We'll see.
So after Subaru gets Amelia situated, he then goes back and he begs Echidna to invite him to the witch's tea party.
So he basically goes through, because we know there are 3 trials, right? So he's basically doing trial number 2.
Yeah, basically doing trial number 2, and boy, this trial sucks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he sees a bunch of realities of what happened after he died in like timelines he left behind. It's pretty awful.
Yeah, dude, that hurts.
It's not great. It does give us, the viewer, and him as well, a little extra context, I think. Like, there's definitely some information there that's important.
Mm-hmm.
But, oh boy. That's rough.
It was rough. And so Subaru's out there freaking out, being traumatized, understandably. And then Rem shows up. And or is it Rem?
Yeah. First impression is like, well, there's no way that's Rem, because Rem is like,
because Rem is
back at the manor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's his first impression. And then she keeps talking, and she's like, "Oh, it's really me." And he's like, "Okay, I don't really understand how, but
yeah, he's just kind of like, my mind is broken enough to believe this."
Yeah.
And so she starts to like comfort him and console him. And she tells him that it's okay and that he can rest. And then she tries to kiss him. And that's when he figures it out. And he basically says, no. Rem is very loving. And she cares about me a lot. And she's always here to pick me up when I'm down. But she's also incredibly strict with me. And she would never tell me to just rest. She would sit there as I cry my eyes out. And then the moment I'm dry, she would tell me to pick myself back up and try again. So you can't be Rem. To which the response is, "This isn't what I was told to expect."
Sorry for confirming it's not Rem.
That facade fades almost immediately.
Yep. And so it becomes very clear that she is actually Carmilla, the Witch of Lust. And I just wanted to take a moment to talk about, I love the interesting ways in which they're personifying the sins. Because when we think about sins personified, especially in anime, in particular lust, I feel like lust is kind of famous specifically because of Full Metal Alchemist.
Not without good reason.
Yeah. Lust is a very major character in Full Metal Alchemist, and she is what you would expect the personification of lust to be. She's scantily clad, very well endowed, very sultry, right?
Yep, that checks off all the tick boxes I was thinking of.
And that's not what this version of lust is. This
No.
version of lust is super, super timid and really, really like, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, she's very, I can't think of the word. She's very covered up. Like, she's wearing baggy clothes. She has a scarf. Like, you don't look at her and be like, oh yes, that is the personification of lust, right? She seems very much not that. She's very modest. That's the word I was looking for.
Modestly dressed, modestly
Modestly
honestly
dressed.
modest in her general demeanor.
Yeah. And so yeah, I've been really enjoying the ways that they've been kind of, I guess, subverting our expectations in terms of like what the sins are supposed to be or how they're personified. And I yeah, it was just kind of interesting being like, "Oh, this is lust? Oh, that's an interesting take."
Yeah, they do different takes on them. I think one of the interesting things too is that because she appears initially in the guise of Rem, right?
Right.
And then when Subaru finally confronts her on this, and he's like, "No, no, no, you're not Rem. You're not Rem. Rem would never tell me to do that, right?" And she reveals that she is in fact the Witch of Lust. It seemed to me, anyways, and correct me if I'm wrong, that she didn't realize what form she was taking. Like, she didn't realize that she looked like Rem. It was just like, you know, he asks like, why did you take her appearance? And she responds something like, that's just the way you chose to perceive me, or that's like the way you were perceiving me, kind of thing. So it seems like maybe what she initially looks like to people depends on the person, and might vary from person to person based on that person's
based on what they want,
feelings of lust,
yeah,
basically.
Yeah. I agree with that. And David, yeah, Wrath. You're right. Wrath wasn't what we expected either. I think we talked about that on a previous episode.
There were a
Yeah,
number
Wrath
of them
is-
that did not exactly
Yeah, a
meet
lot of
those
them are very
expectations.
different from what you would expect, and I really like.
Wrath is the weirdest one for me because okay, she gets angry a lot and she does the pouty anime face a lot, but like when I think of Wrath as one of the embodiments of the sins, like you're thinking like somebody who just blows stuff up and hates everything and is just vengeful all the time. And this version of Wrath doesn't do that.
Yeah.
In fact, when she punches people, hearts come out. Like, I don't
Yeah.
Yeah, she does not seem necessarily all that wrathful.
She's lovingly wrathful.
She is very lovingly wrathful, which is not what you. She seems almost not like retribution, but maybe protective wrath, just like overwhelming protective force.
Yeah,
maybe
just
yeah.
available at a hot moment. It is very hard to define what kind of wrath she is, considering how very different she is from any normal personification of that deadly sin.
Yeah.
I think Grade's pretty close, honestly. I think Grade has a weird little chibi in a spider coffin. You know, that's not how I would
that's
picture
not
it,
great
but...
gluttony.
right. Excuse me, that's Gluttony. Yeah, no, but yeah, Gluttony. At least from we've gotten a little bit more dialogue, I think, out of Gluttony than the rest of them, and I really liked her sort of neutral stance on, you know, it's an eater be eaten world, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
As long as stuff's getting eaten, she's cool with it. Like that was a cool take. We did also see the last witch that we haven't seen before. We saw Sekhmet, the Witch of Sloth.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Or actually, no. Go ahead. Go guys. Say what you want to say about Sekhmet.
Wow, just cool character design.
Yeah.
Not what I was expecting. I like that she just lays down. Like, she's so slothful.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't even want to stand up. I'm just gonna lay here.
And she like sighs between every sentence.
She reminds me very much of, I believe Sekhmet is the Egyptian god or goddess of crocodiles, where it takes on a semi-crocodile appearance. And you don't imagine those as
So,
doing a
yeah.
lot. They just kind of like sit there, waiting very patiently for their prey to arrive.
There was like, um, when you said Egyptian god of crocodiles, my instant reaction was, "There's an Egyptian god of crocodiles?" And then I was like, "Yeah, no, that makes sense."
There's an Egyptian
That seems
god
like
for a
something ancient
lot.
Egyptians would have had.
The
The Egyptians have they had a lot of gods.
I don't know. Sekhmet
Yeah.
was lion-headed. I am
Oh,
totally
Oh.
off.
I think there is maybe it's Sorbeck. I don't know. There's a lot of
Yes, that's
similar
it.
sounding.
That's Sorbeck.
Okay.
But
yeah, no, I
also
think-
the
I
lion
think-
and the cat lazy thing, that still does make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that still works. Because I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. If anyone knows, I think Sekhmet. Yeah, she's like a wrathful, maybe not a war deity, but definitely a fierce deity who's sort of like the opposite counterpart to Hathor, who's like more of a. I think she's maybe the goddess of fertility or farming or something along those lines.
She's also
Mhm.
kind of a foil to Bast, who's the goddess of cats, and also less, like brutal slaughter than she is.
Yeah. Bast is
Mhm.
like the good cat goddess, and Sekhmet is like the angry cat god. Like when your cat just starts scratching all the furniture, that's Sekhmet. But-
David Martin had a really good observation here. He says, "Sloth looks like the set. I don't know.
It's sexy.
Sexy, yeah. Sloth looks like the sexy of lust. Gluttony is always in bed. That moves for her, not moving like sloth would do. It kind of interchanged the typical things expected from the other sins.
You know what? He has a fair point.
Yeah, I think you've got a fair point there.
Yeah, I was gonna say like costume design wise, Sekhmet is
Mhm.
kind of what I would expect Lust to be.
Yeah, agreed. So yeah. No, anyways, that's a whole tangent, but yeah, I really like the subversion of expectations that they're doing with the sins.
That's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, as you said, apparently if she appeared as Rem, that's because Rem was who Subaru wanted to see. And the Echidna told her to do this. And then Subaru like tries to approach Lust, and he collapses. This is apparently due to the fact that she has this thing called Faceless Bride, which makes people forget to breathe when in her presence. Which that's kind of terrifying.
Well, that also explains why they were so fucking terrified of her. Like once
Yeah.
the illusion is gone, it's like, oh shit.
Mhm.
Your heart could quite literally stop in the presence of this woman.
It's an interesting because Echidna's first one of her first comments to Subaru, right, when they have their first tea party is like, oh, that's a weird reaction to me. Normally people vomit when they see me. Right? So it seems like maybe each of the witches has their own little like quirk that people get when you're in their presence, maybe.
Perhaps an aura?
Yes. Yes, one makes you vomit, one makes your heart stop, good stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do people just die in the presence of the Witch of Envy?
Probably. Just
Um,
lose their minds or something.
Yeah. So Echidna tells Subaru that she sent Carmilla, the Witch of Lust, to him because otherwise his mind would have broken. And also says that everything he saw might have actually happened, but it was a falsified illusion created by the trial. And that the only person who really knows if that's the way things went down, or if there are other like versions of the world left over, even, is Satella.
Yeah. So
Uh.
it seemed very much like this is kind of getting maybe a little bit into multiple worlds theory kind of stuff,
Mhm.
territory here, where it's like when he dies, does the reality that he was a part of get erased, or does that timeline continue without him, and he just
Mhm.
resets to a new version of reality that he then
Yeah.
goes with?
It's
Like
something
are
that
the
I've been
people
wondering for a
still
long
alive?
time. Yeah, it's something that I've been wondering for a long time. I know that at least for me personally, I can say I sure hope not. But knowing how dark this show can get,
Probably.
Probably true.
Hey, turns out there are multiple parallel universes. It's just that every time Subaru dies, he creates a new parallel universe. It's cool.
Mhm.
Yep. It's very
Only him,
not
though.
cool, but
Only him, though.
Mhm. So
I do want to touch on there's a I don't remember too much, but like some of the flashbacks he has of these experiences like after he dies and like how people are reacting afterward. There's some interesting stuff in there that we didn't know before. Like for instance, when stuff really goes wrong and Emilia dies and Subaru dies, like frozen by the castle because I'm pretty sure it's Puck, right, who's turned into this giant
Oh, yeah.
wolf and is freezing
right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
everything. We get a little more context on that. Apparently, Puck is basically freezing the entire world, and a familiar face comes by to stop that.
Yeah, Reinhard shows up. You're
Yep.
correct.
With his big old sword actually
Yeah.
unsheathed.
With his big sword.
Turns out it does lots of magic AoE stuff, which is pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah, it's like a sword nuke.
basically.
A snook?
I
Yes,
hate
yeah,
that.
exactly.
A snook.
A snook.
uh
He's got a big snook. That's
Or
that's
it
pretty
could be a
awesome.
Nord. Just a giant Nord.
oh god.
He just hits people with a Nord. Yeah, that's
All you need is the
now thinking
Nordsman.
Skyrim.
or
Thinking like Skyrim and just like holding a giant Nord and just whacking people with.
but yeah, so uh let's see, where was I? So yeah, after Echidna explains all this, she encourages him. She's like, "Oh, you've got here because of how hard you've worked and all this stuff." And Subaru asks her why she keeps helping him. And that's when she asks him to form a contract with her, which forms the basis for the rest of what goes down in this episode.
Just FYI, just general common sense. If a witch asks you to form a contract and then kind of doesn't really tell you what that means, but then holds out her hand because she wants you to make the contract, maybe don't.
Maybe
So,
ask to read the fine
when I was
print.
watching this with Katie and another friend, like we were all watching the episode for the first time, and we were like screaming at the screen. We were like, "Subaru, Subaru, ask more questions, Subaru."
He's got a problem with that, you know?
I
Yeah,
mean,
like-
Echidna has more than done a good job of building a relationship, which, up until this point, when I saw this was like, oh, you've been building up to this. This has been your entire plan the whole time. You haven't cared about any of this bullshit.
Endgame.
You've cared about getting this one asshole to sign on the dotted line. That's what all this is about. Fuck Emilia. Fuck the Sanctuary. This is what you're here for.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of course, Echidna says, "Oh yes, forming this contract will help you in a lot of ways." And he's like, "Well, help me? That doesn't sound like a bad idea." And the contract apparently requires them to bond their souls, and just as they're about to do it, they're interrupted by Wrath.
Of course.
Who's angry, kind of.
Yeah, and she's angry. It's like,
Not
how dare
good
you?
Reason.
Apparently Echidna lied about having to swap places with the other witches. Apparently all of them can just be in the same place. But Echidna was like, nah, I want you to myself. It's a very greedy thing to do.
Yeah, it's almost like she's the witch of that or something.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like they don't have to swap places or something. That's just something that she did because she was worried maybe one of the other witches would start splitting the moves on Subaru too, and maybe form a contract with him before she did. Because I don't know, maybe you can't form multiple contracts with multiple witches. Maybe you got to pick one. I don't know. Maybe the witch of greed is just greedy, and she wants to be the only one.
She doesn't want to share him if absolutely necessary. That sounds like a greedy move to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That tracks.
In character.
Honestly,
So
though, don't they all want him?
it definitely seems like there's some of that. but
Get that
because
vibe from the
yeah,
Witch
because
of Gluttony.
yeah, well, Echidna makes a passing comment that Wrath wants him as well, and Wrath rants about the fact that Echidna hasn't told Subaru what the bad parts of the contract are. To which I was like, "Thank you, please explain," because clearly there's a catch.
Yeah, clearly the
This
only
is-
person here with a moral compass is Wrath. Sadly.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, come on. This is Subaru, the guy that was like specifically told, "Don't touch the other witches," like, and then literally the first thing he does is shake hands with her, and he loses an arm. Like,
Yeah. You'd think he would have learned his lesson from that, but no.
he's kind of slow on the uptake sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it
bit.
takes a little bit of a hard reset for him to figure that out.
Oh.
Literal. In that case.
Yup.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, basically, Echidna's like, "Oh, it's nothing bad. I just want a taste of the unknown that you bring, Subaru." And then Lust shows up, and she's like, "Well, that's true, but like that's not everything that's true. Like, there's more to that she's keeping from you."
Mm. He just wants to share everything. His experiences, his soul, his heart, his mind, his future. All the things.
All the things. And Echidna promises to guide him to the future he desires, but then the Witch of Sloth shows up and she says, "This wouldn't be the promise you always proceed with in the end, would it?" Whatever the fuck that means. And then I think Echidna is like, "Why are you here?" And Sloth is like, "I'm only here as a watchdog to preserve the fairness of this place, but I will fulfill my obligation to her." Which makes me think that she's working for Satella.
I did not quite get that feeling. I thought that was her trying to enforce the fairness that she might be obligated to do a certain thing now that Echidna has made certain moves to keep it fair.
But she says, "But I will fulfill my obligation to her."
Yeah, like because Echidna did a thing, Sekhmet wants to keep it balanced, so she is now obligated to do something for Satella to bring out that was the implication that I got.
Okay.
Like she
I think it
maybe
is
it's odd wording or the translation, but that was my takeaway from that.
okay. I think it's worth pointing out that thus far we've seen only a couple of our archbishops in action. We've seen greed, we've seen gluttony, but the first one we saw was sloth, right? Our Beetlejuice Archbishop of Sloth.
Yeah.
So I think, and it's pretty clear that the witch cultists outside of this, dream space where the witches exist, right? The witch cultists outside are trying to bring Satella back, right? This is the thing they're trying to do. They're trying to like turn Amelia into Satella. That seems to be their goal, right? So whether or not the Witch of Sloth inside this like Tea Party area is aligned with Satella, it's pretty clear that the cultists that follow her anyways were working with Satella.
That's a fair point.
Well, I agreed, but there's some reaction shots at the very end of this episode that I definitely want to talk about in a minute that I feel like show some pretty clear things. But yeah, basically, after she says this, the other witches minus Satella arrive. So now all 6 of them are there, and Subaru asks Echidna if she will guide him to the best possible future using the best possible path, and she goes silent.
she just keeps smiling without saying anything. He's like, "Wait, why aren't you talking? What
say words, please."
Why aren't you talking?
And then Echidna pours her heart out, saying how she intends to use him to satisfy her curiosity and greed, but how he's also allowed to use her back in much more flowery language than that.
Yeah, use in every usage of that word.
Yup. Everything. Basically, she uses him for whatever she wants, and he uses her for whatever he wants, seemingly with pretty much no boundaries. The only boundaries she sets on it is that she won't force him to use Return by Death.
Right. No, that's important.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting, like, this whole speech, right? We have to remember what we've learned in previous episodes is that she was working around with some necromancy stuff, right? In an attempt to possibly live forever. So she can keep accumulating knowledge, and her greed, meant that she wanted to keep learning stuff forever and learn everything that there is to know. So obviously being immortal, pretty helpful in that regard.
Yep.
And she was experimenting around with Ryuzu, right? And we learned that experiment failed, right? She did not, her attempt was to infuse her soul in Ryuzu's body, basically. Not really sure if that meant that Ryuzu's personality would be erased and it would just be Echidna, or if they'd be combined in some way. Regardless of what she wanted to do, though, that experiment did not work, right? And Ryuzu retained, at least in her various copies, in some of her various copies anyways, some semblance of her original personality.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not a kid, like old Ryuzu who still has, a mind left, because some of them are just like empty shells, right?
Right.
But the Ryuzu that we talked to, and have been talking to in previous episodes, is not just Echidna, right? She's her own person. So this is very much to me like, oh, she never dropped that experiment. She, even when she died, she was like, I'm still working towards that immortality thing. She just has to find a different way of doing it.
Yeah.
And Subaru, who literally, I mean, I guess he can't, it's not that he can't die, but when he does die, he comes right back, is functionally immortal.
That's true. Yeah. So it's a way for her to be immortal.
Yep.
Ooh.
So, yeah, that's a thing.
Turns out the evil witch is not motivated necessarily by Subaru's best interest. Who could have predicted?
Who would have thought?
It's almost like
she did keep calling herself evil.
She did. She
did make that a painfully obvious.
Yep. So Subaru is shocked by how shallow and superficial she is, which is like, Subaru, you sweet, sweet fool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he declares that she is incapable of understanding how anyone else feels. He even says, "This is one of those times when you could get angry." And she responds with, "I see. You have taught me much. When we next have a chance, I will do just that." Which is that sounds like a threat.
No, that's not a threat, man. That's a promise.
It doesn't sound good for Subaru.
No, it doesn't.
Maybe don't piss off the evil witch that's super powerful.
I think she's probably going to use it as a pressure tool. Just like, you could have signed the contract, it's still available. Or I'm going to rip your guts out like 1,000 times. And you'll just be stuck here in my tea party until I'm through with you.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know what she's got. She like, normally, and I think one of the reasons that her general appearance is a little off-putting, but generally, like, the way she talks is pretty friendly.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, sit down, have some tea. It's real nice." Like, she's very disarming in her demeanor, and I think that's one of the reasons Subaru is such an idiot. When it comes to like her evil plans, in that moment though, there is something very different in her tone.
Yeah.
Like when she says, "Oh, and the next time we meet, I will show you that."
Mm-hmm. Well,
Like
she
she
well
goes from
she's friendly until she says, "I will do just that." And like, not only
yeah
does her tone drop, her face drops and becomes
yeah
very serious.
yeah. She's been very playful in everything. Even when she says, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
just an evil little witch. Don't mind me." You know, everything she says is
Mhm.
very playful, except that line.
Yep.
So that's not good.
Mm-hmm. Um, she says she wants to discuss the contract more, but Subaru decides, no, I want to ask about Beatrice. He asks who that person is, uh, and Echidna responds that she doesn't know. She never assigned a person because she wanted to know who Beatrice would choose. And she thinks the fact that Beatrice hasn't chosen a person for 400 years and wants to die is wonderful.
That is the word she uses. Yep.
Yep. And Subaru is understandably kind of appalled. Uh, he calls her a monster, declares that he's going to take Beatrice's hand and not hers. He has no intention of forming a contract with her, and every intention of releasing Beatrice from her contract. And just as he says that, a darkness falls over the land. And that's when we get a bunch of reaction shots that I think are very important. Wrath seems surprised and perhaps slightly apprehensive. Lust is straight up scared. Sloth seems apathetic, but claims that it's troublesome. Gluttony says she's feeling hungry. Echidna looks downright furious. We have never seen Echidna look like that before. Sloth is excited. Or sorry, not Sloth. The other one. Pride. Pride is excited. And all of this is, of course, because Satella, the Witch of Envy, just arrived. And that's where they drop the episode.
Yeah, isn't I think this is the last one for the core, or is that the next episode?
No, we've got one more next
Oh,
week.
great! They've got one more ball to drop, and then we
Yep.
have to wait like how many months until they're back?
January.
Ugh.
Mhm.
See this. Oh yeah, I'm a little because correct me if I'm wrong on this, right? The first
Mhm.
season ends on a happy note, but
Mhm.
the director's cut of the first season adds in that little scene right at the end. Is
Mhm.
the first scene from the second season, and
Right.
essentially that's when Emilia's like, "Oh yeah, who's Rem?"
Yeah.
And our happy ending goes right out the window.
レモって誰のこと？
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't have high hopes for this season ending on a not catastrophic cliffhanger. I'll say
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah.
I just hope that Satella's coherent this time.
Yeah,
All
that's
that
what
she's
I'm wondering. Like
all
that's
we've heard is her
my
mad
I'm really
ravings.
hoping that in this next episode Subaru and Satella will actually be able to have a coherent conversation for the first time because Lord knows they've been acquainted for a while.
Yeah, and how much you willing to bet she's gonna look exactly like Amelia because she may or may not be Amelia in the future?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
I think it's already pretty clear. Like her outfit's a little different, but it's very Amelia-esque.
Yeah, and like honestly, I mean, I know we talked about it in a previous episode, but I'm just like I keep thinking back to the fact that when Amelia first introduced herself in that first timeline, she introduced herself as Satella.
Yeah,
She did do that.
yeah. God, this. I want
And
some answers.
Mhm.
Puck's immediate response to that was like, "You have terrible taste."
Yeah, uh-huh. Like you have really terrible taste.
Who knows? It could be some of this time travel bullshit. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
I'm really, really excited to see where this goes. They left us on a massive cliffhanger here. Do you guys have any predictions as to what's going to happen next? Because we've only got one more episode.
Which is gonna fight?
Which is going to fight? I like that
That's
prediction.
my prediction.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Satella's actually going to talk coherently.
I think that Satella's going to scare/threaten/beat the shit out of Echidna.
Okay. Because Echidna's moving up on her territory, huh?
Yeah, there's not only that, but also she threatens Subaru.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true too.
With her delusion, I guess that's the best word we have for it at this point. I don't think she would particularly stand for that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, she and Subaru are in love, don't you know?
I mean, depending upon exactly the context, she may not be wrong. It is entirely possible that Emilia and the Witch of Greed are on a certain level one and the same.
You know, I just thought of something that I didn't catch in the last episode.
Go ahead.
When Subaru goes in to die in Emilia's arms, she keeps talking about how she loves him. But she made a comment that it confused me at first, but now as I'm thinking deeper about it, I'm like, oh, that's bad. Emilia says in passing something along the lines of, I love you, but of course, I wouldn't be happy if you only looked at me.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at the time, actually. That seems...
I think she's saying she wants him to look at other women because it would make her envious.
Oh no! I mean, this is further confirming my potential theory that she either becomes the Witch of Greed at the end of this, or she gets the powers of the Witch of Greed, and that's what causes this whole fucking mess. But we shall see.
Yeah, I did. That's a big brain. That's a big brain moment right there. That I didn't understand that comment last episode. That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. She is the Witch of Envy.
Hopefully we will get some kind of answers, please.
Oh no.
I know I'm going to have more questions, but hopefully we will get some answers.
Yeah.
See, one of the things... Okay. One of the things when I started watching the show, because you got me into the show, and you're like, I gotta watch the show, it's really good. And I was like, okay, it seems kind of, I wouldn't say generic harem anime kind of thing, but there's definitely, and it even to this point in the show, it has still retained some elements of the harem anime tropes.
I agree, yeah.
You also have been saying for a long time that the show does nothing unintentionally, right? Yeah. All of like the cringiest moments that are just like, oh god, that's so... It does those for a reason.
Yeah. And
often to subvert that trope or that cliche.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for a envious witch who wants the person she has bestowed her love upon to be envy, what better protagonist for that show than a guy in a harem anime?
Oh my god.
Oh no!
Forrest fucking galaxy brain right now.
Oh Jesus.
Forrest, what have you done?
I think I've squared how the harem anime elements in the show work to subvert that trope, is what I think.
Yeah, I think you have. That was something that I was like, with like Beatrice and like Petra and like especially all this new, like the new stuff that's been coming this season. I was like literally sitting
there and Ram.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, like they're kind of piling the harem element on a bit strong. I don't know how I feel about this, but now that you said that, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Like, holy fuck, dude.
We got all these characters falling for Subaru, just so that the witch can tear them down.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
This show's so good, guys.
It gets very meta.
Yeah. God.
All right.
Wow.
I really don't know what's
Well,
gonna
on
happen
that
next
happy
episode,
note-
but-
On that note of just coming to these huge realizations.
Fuck.
Yeah, I think we did a podcast, guys. I think we talked about some good stuff today.
ReZero?
I barely talked about SAO.
We'll fix that.
It's been-
Don't you worry.
It's been a long time since you barely talked about
I
SAO.
actually have a couple things.
Oh, all right.
First of all, SAO Progressive was announced.
Yes, yeah, we talked about that last week.
Yes.
Is this
did you-
SAO in space?
No.
Yeah. No. This is that. No, not SAO Progressive. I'm bummed because it's not SAO in space.
It's basically I believe it's a remake of the original arc.
Yes, that's
done
great.
better.
Yeah, it's my understanding is that it's Aincrad without time skips.
Ooh.
Gotcha. Okay,
The
we did talk about this last week.
The other thing
Yeah.
is, ReZero has a visual novel announced for PlayStation.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it seems to
Station.
take place right when the 5 candidates show up at the throne.
Oh, all right.
So maybe if it's interesting enough, I'll pick it up and maybe I'll play it. We shall see.
Okay.
But since we were on those topics, I thought it'd be best, just put out some announcements there. Could be interesting. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in any case, yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been a real fun time. We will be back same time next week to talk about more ReZero, talk about some more anime. It'll be
This is the final episode, right?
Next week.
we need
should
to talk
be-
about that. I mean, it's definitely the final episode of ReZero.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have some discussions about we're gonna have some behind the scenes discussions about what's gonna be coming next and what the plans are.
Is it
but-
will be like this November?
Yeah, November 7th.
Ooh,
Um,
not too far off.
Yeah, not too far off at all. So, anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can find, as far as where you can find us, or find me here on the KRWBY channel. I'm also in the community Discord at Hubbard Audio. Same on Twitter at Hubbard Audio if you want to follow me there. I don't post a whole lot on Twitter. I also don't post a whole lot on Discord, but I'm there. You can find me.
You're there and accessible for when you
I'm
actually
there
want
and
to respond to
accessible.
messages.
Yeah. Ian, where are you? Where can they find you?
I would tell them to go to Twitter, except I remembered that I locked it. So if you want to message me at all, I'm an admin on the KRWBY Productions Discord server. So if you have any issues at all, like someone's bothering you, please let me know. I'll help you take care of it. I'll see what I can do. Or if you just want to talk, please just let me know. I am usually around. If I don't get back to you, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I promise.
Hell yeah. Forrest, where can they find you?
Let's hear podcast next week.
Hell yeah. You can find him here on the podcast. All right. Thank you guys
It's
so
where I
much for
live.
tuning in. We will see you next week to talk about the final episode of the first core of ReZero Season 2. It's been fun. See you later. Bye!
Bye-bye.